What is up, guys? It is Blake here from Road Club, as you can see. Here with a little special thing I'm going to try to do over the next couple weeks for something that is, as you can tell by the stuff behind me, the poster, all of these figures, everything, even my shirt, that this is something very special to me, something I enjoy very much. I'm going to be talking about the Legend of Vox Machina, which is an animated show based off of the D&D, very popular I believe it's just called a Let's Play, where they just play D&D. Let's Play series called Critical Role. For those that don't know, assuming most people probably do know, but who knows? So I'm just going to kind of talk about the things that I seen in the show, things I liked in the show, things I didn't like in the show. I found Critical Role, just a little backstory on it. I think I found Critical Role probably somewhere in like 8-ish months, 7-ish, 8 months after they started the actual stream on Geek and Sundry's Twitch channel. They started their stream there. I found it a little bit after, right around October or so, and I've stuck with it since. I've watched every episode that they've released through live stream, except for the newest one that released like a week or so ago that I haven't finished that episode. However, every episode I've watched, Campaign 1 in particular, which is what Legend of Vox Machina is based upon, I have watched through fully once, watched multiple episodes a second time. I haven't completed a full second watch, like a watch through. But I have listened to it because before I have my current job that I have now, I worked at the post office delivering mail, so I just had a lot of time every day to just listen to stuff. So a lot of it was spent listening to the podcast version of Critical Role, more specifically the first campaign. So I've know a lot about the first campaign of Critical Role. So the fact that they're doing this animated show is insane. It is amazing. It is fantastic. So I did took some notes down. I've watched this will be just for the first 3 episodes because they're releasing them in 3 episodes at a time. They say they're released on Fridays. They're actually released like late Thursday night on Amazon Prime. So I made some notes of like I said, the things I liked, the things I didn't like from these first 3 episodes. But like a quick review of, if people didn't watch the quick review. Oh, also, I need to do this. Spoilers for everything Legend of Vox Machina. I will be covering. I'm going to kind of give it like a brief overview of season 1. Then I'm going to go into season 2. This thing's whatever. But like I said, I made a list so I don't ramble a whole bunch. So I'm going to try to keep it on track. Season 1 of Legend of Vox Machina, 12 episodes. The first 2 episodes that they did actually was a fun fact. They weren't part of the live stream because Critical Role was a home game between the cast, obviously. Matt Mercer, Liam O'Brien, Laura Bailey, Travis Willingham, Taliesin Jaffe, Ashley Johnson, Sam Riegel. Orion Akaba was a part of the home game in some of the beginning of Critical Role. He was eventually let go from the show. But so they had it as a home game. They turned it into Felicia Day, which was, I believe, a head person. I don't know if she's like the owner of it or how she was involved. She was a high-up person at Geek and Sundry. She asked them to do a live stream. They said they would try it. Fast forward however many years later, here they are with their own animated show, their own full pop section, sideshow, figures, countless other things. There's books down here that I have of theirs, everything, shirts, merch, everything. So the first 2 episodes of the season 1 were things that happened before the stream, and that was involved with, there was a dragon that they killed. More specifically, in the first episode, they hunted down and had to kill a large blue dragon. Which in Dungeons & Dragons, if you don't know, dragons don't work like they do in things like Game of Thrones. Where in Game of Thrones, dragons just all breathe fire. In Dungeons & Dragons, dragons are very different. There's different types, different kinds, there's chromatic, metallic, things like that. Green, blue, red, white, as you see in this show. Lots of lots of cool things that they don't have in other dragon things. So they killed a blue dragon, um, which does end up linking up with this season 2 that they did. Well, they kill the dragon and then they eventually go off and explore Percy, which is one of the characters played by Taliesin Jaffe. They explore some of his backstory with his family home of Whitestone, where it was taken over by some basically a vampire and a very powerful necromancer, trying to summon a wannabe deity, wannabe god. Some of you might know him from Stranger Things, named Vecna. In Critical they usually just refer to him as the Whispered One because they don't like using the big Dungeons and Dragons names for reasons similar to what's going on now with all of the Dungeons and Dragons drama around the new open game license stuff that they're trying to revoke. That's a whole nother thing that I'm not really going to talk about now. But so they go take over take Percy's home back from them, all of that, which then they go back to the city of Amon, which is where this season picks up. And as they are at a, like, what's it called, like a gathering where the sovereign, which is kind of like the president or the king or whatever, is announcing he's stepping down and relinquishing control to the Council of Tal'Dorei, not just the sovereign, where one person's in control and they take leadership or advice from a council. Everything will be up to the council from now on. In the process of this, 4 very large ancient dragons come in and destroy everything. That's pretty much where we end up, obviously, and then the episodes we get after are Vox Machina going to try to find a way to fight this. So my things that I didn't really break it down into a like-dislike kind of thing. I just kind of listed it as I kind of scrolled through the episodes in a little bit and just kind of caught the high notes. First off, the dragons look phenomenal. I love the look at the dragons. I love how they're each individually. And I'm actually going to remove my camera here for a second just to see this picture that I have behind me, where that is the closest dragon you see. That is going to be Umbrasyl, the Hope Devourer. He is a black dragon. He is an acid dragon. They use acid, as you can see the acid coming from him. Really cool feature that they added about him. Before I do that, and then you see on top, the dragon on top, that is Raishan, which is a green dragon. She uses poison, I guess you would say it is. And I believe that's the dragon in the far back is Thordak, which is the Cinder King, the main dragon, the leader. But I really like how each dragon has their own individual looks. Like Umbrasyl, the one you see over here, everything looks gross and acidy, and he has like this acid pocket thing in his throat, and then he has his spikes that go up his head that have like this, and then whenever he flaps his wing, it's not just a breath weapon like you see mostly in when you play Dungeons and Dragons. It's he flaps his wings and acid comes out. It's a really cool touch that they added that I think's really, really cool. Raishan, she looks fantastic. She's a little bit more intelligent than the other dragons, but how she has a really cool, like, whenever she puffs up, almost like a cobra. She looks like her. She has these like kind of things that puff out or whatever. It looks really cool. Thordak with his his big spikes, and he's much larger than all of them with his the soul anchor in his chest. Really nice touch there. Voragol's very unique when he's the white dragon that you didn't see here. He's a very unique one that I really liked. He'll be the one that's you'll see breathing ice and stuff like that. He has a cool feature where the flaps of his wings, instead of just coming up to his wings and then coming back to his body, it actually branches down to the tip of his tail. So it's a really cool aesthetic that I think. So yeah, overall, dragons looked phenomenal. I'm extremely happy with how they looked. Compared to coming from a live stream where it's all in your imagination. Then you get some fan art where it's close, but it's never exactly what the cast has in mind. So that's one of the coolest things about seeing this animated show is you finally get to see exactly what the cast thinks these things look like, what Matt envisioned these things looking like when he created them in his head. That's just a really cool thing to me. And then just moving on to things that happened in the show. I felt like we stay, and if you, I'm going to be comparing these things, a lot of things from the stream to the animated show, obviously. But I feel like we stayed in Emont like during the attack. I felt like, I know in the stream they did do a little fighting, but not a lot. And then we got to see Alora. I can't remember her title. Can't remember. But we see Alora, Kima, and Gilmore. They actually got a little fighting in as well, which are just main characters from the stream that everybody likes and loves and everything. So they got a little bit of action themselves, throwing some magic around, doing some defensive stuff. Allura and Kima doing a little offensive too. That was really cool. But none of that happened in the stream, which is cool because obviously they're going to have to change a lot of things. But so it's cool to see other characters also getting some time to shine a little bit. But like I said, I do feel like we stayed in Amon longer than we did on the stream, which is fine. It's cool. You get to feel more. It feels like it lets it breathe more of, hey, what's happening? This is a catastrophic attack that's happening right now. Also seeing the death of Sovereign Uriel on screen, we did not get that in the live stream. It was assumed, but it wasn't confirmed until at a later time. His wife and kids escape, but he does not. But in the show, his wife actually sees him pass, unfortunately, which very sad, but it was a cool moment to see in the stream. And then you get them retreating, which I don't believe they did in the stream. I believe in the stream they just went Keyleth, which is a druid. She just cast a spell, the transport via plant spell, to open a tree, and then they went directly back to their keep at Grayskull Keep early, which I don't think they call it in the show because I don't think they can. But in this one, they run to Gilmore's shop, Gilmore's Glorious Goods, and he eventually they get attacked there as well, and he's like, "I'll just take anything." This is the cool part that I wanted to mention because we see a lot of key items here that in the stream were introduced in other ways, but in this show, like, we get the two most noticeable one to some people were the Belt of Dwarven Kind, which was retrieved, I want to say, in Craghammer, but I'm not 100% on that off the top of my head. And then the Flying Broom, which I do 100% remember where it comes from because they had a guest on the show. It was when Chris Hardwick guest on the stream of Critical Role, and he was a blue dragonborn necromantic wizard that made candles, and it was absolutely hilarious. He had a flying broom. Vex ended up stealing it from him, which is Laura Bailey's character. She ended up stealing it from him. Matt actually docked her on her alignment, which was hilarious. So she's something she had to recover from. And obviously, we probably don't have time for all of that in this show. They're trying to speed things up. Hundreds of hours of content into 12, 25-minute episodes, which this season did get greenlit for season 3, so 12 more probably. But it's really cool to see those things there, and we don't see the broom be used at all, but in episode 3 we do see Grog finally put the belt on and get his famous beard that he portrays in this lovely pop here. That was the key to a lot of jokes. It's funny how they did it in the show where he puts it on, just has the beard. In the stream, it was not that easy. He had to make several checks, like where Matt would make him roll some kind of D100 check to see if it was growing a beard. It was a very long thing that they just kind of sped up into one thing, which was pretty funny. One thing I did think was weird when they were still at Gilmore's shop, Percy found I think it was Lance of Dragon Slaying or something like that, and as he goes to pick it up, Brox fell on top of it and broke it. In Dungeons & Dragons rule set, magic items cannot be broken, so it was funny that all it took was some rocks to break that. I thought that was funny, unique, and also just trying to split some difference from from Dungeons and Dragons rules, I guess, but also didn't really feel like it was needed because I mean you could have just not showed the dragon slaying, the lance of dragon slaying or whatever. Um, Another thing that didn't make sense to me really was it happened in episode 1 and episode 2, and then obviously leading up to the end of episode 3. But Vax sees a mystery woman that he doesn't recognize. Turns out that it is the Raven Queen, who he later becomes a patron of because of the end of season or episode 3, the events that happen there. But I don't, because in the stream, like they weren't religious at all, really. I mean, Pike was, but nobody else was really religious. So for Vax, unless they're trying to play it like the Raven Queen knew what was going to happen, and I'm a big Vax Raven Queen fan. I have a full tattoo dedicated to Vax and the Raven Queen, his dagger, and everything. Big fan of that character arc. It was fantastic. This part doesn't really make any sense to me of why he's seeing her beforehand, but hopefully they explain it because in the stream he did it. Like I said, they didn't have anything to do with her, and then what happens at the end of episode 3, which I'll get to in a little bit, happens, and then he begs her, basically trades her, hey, you make this happen, I'll follow you. She did, so then he became her champion. Why he's seen her before, I don't really understand, but we'll see. And then we get the Thordak. Going back to my wrestling podcast with my friend, Thordak promo that he kind of cuts on the city of Amon. And the reason that I mentioned this specifically is because he starts it with "Hear me, insects." That whole little snippet of what he says right there is word for word what Matt said in the stream as Thordak to the players, to the city of Amon. So it was really cool that they did that with him saying that word for word. Also, shout out to the actor that is playing Thordak currently, who is I seen who it was, and I was like, oh, I think I know that name, and I googled the name, and it's the waiter. I'm sure he's in a lot of other stuff. Somebody mentioned to me that he does some voiceover work in Destiny as well, the video game. He is the receptionist, like the front desk receptionist at the Continental in the John Wick movies. Lance Reddick. He's very good. Plays this role great. I do enjoy him very much in this. But that Hear Me Insects promo, to hear that as watching a dragon deliver that is fantastic. Fast forward, they end up transporting back to, which they might have already at this point. They go back to their keep. They gather some people come there to escape. They end up retreating to They retreat to Whitestone, where people are safe, and in the stream they did that as well. But then they find out that they need to go to a city called Vasselheim, which is the longest standing city. And it's a very religious city. All of the prime deities there are represented with the temples and things there. It's really cool. One of the things that I didn't notice originally, I noticed on my second watch through, because I watched it once by myself, and then I watched it with my wife. Something I didn't notice the first time, but somebody pointed it out to me. You get to see actually, there's a small snippet where they mention, oh yeah, all of the gods are mentioned here, and it'll show the Wild Mother. And when they do that, it cuts to showing like this big nature scene, and you actually see one of their campaign 2 characters, the guy that Taliesin Jaffe, who plays Percy in campaign 1, he plays Caduceus Clay in campaign 2 for most of campaign 2, and you see him there in Vasselheim, which is hilarious because I think those 2 campaigns are about 20 years apart. So this is the Caduceus we're seeing there is 20-ish years before we see him even in the stream. So it's just really cool character continuity that we're seeing. Like, hey, he did have a life before this. It's really cool. They go and seek help from the High Bearer. I can't remember what temple she's at. I think her name's High Bearer Vord, I believe. They reject their help. They don't provide them with any help, unfortunately. So they are told to go to the Slayer's Take, which in the stream, there's 4 episodes that's called Trials of the Slayer's Take, which is what episode 2 is. No. 3 is called in this one, I think. 2 or 3 is called Trials of the Slayer Take. In the live stream, those are probably some of my favorite episodes in the whole 3 campaigns of Critical Role. And the reason those are so unique is because in this time, Matt splits the party. The Slayers Take, people say that they want membership into the Slayers Take. They make them split the party. I don't remember exactly how they were split. I think it was Vax, Keyleth, Tiberius, who's obviously was Orion's character, not in the show. And then I think it was Vex, Grog, Scanlan, and Percy. I believe that's how they were split. Pike might have been in there somewhere too. I don't remember. But they split those, and that's where they introduced a lot of guest characters. They introduced Torbeer, which is played by Will Wheaton, who's only played those 2 episodes, I believe. Felicia Day played a character in one of those as well. She was hilarious. But we meet a long-time returning characters, and they're introduced in this episode of Cash and Zara, played by Will Friedle and Mary Elizabeth McGlynn. Mary's actually was the voice director for season 1. I believe she's also the voice director for season 2, but I haven't actually looked to see. But that was really cool. Cash and Zara are 2 of my favorite guests. Cash is my number 1 favorite guest. He is just hilarious. Will Friedle plays him perfectly. And it's really lost my train of thought. Oh, he's also one of my just favorite characters. Like, if I was to rank all of the people that's been in Critical Role, guest and main characters, Cash is going to be up close to the top because he's hilarious. But I don't really. This is one of the main things that I think I had to complain about. Which, if I think about it to the live stream, I think it was probably similar. But the introduction to the Slayer's Take is very different here, where they're just told, "Hey, just go to the Slayer's Take," and then they go to the Slayer's Take. One, Vax and Vex already know about the Slayer's Take, and which is a little weird. And then they go, and then they're actually wanted by the Slayer's Take for various things you get. But it seems very hostile between Zara, Cash, and then the group. Which in the show, I'm pretty sure it was the same way. I guess I was just expecting them to be friendlier, but I'm used to them being friendly like they are later in the campaign. So I'm assuming we'll get there, just not there yet. But it just seemed a little weird how the introduction happened. But that's when we do get to see Osisa, the Sphinx patron of the Slayer's Take. She looked phenomenal in this. She looked very cool. Even my wife was like, "Hey, I really like how that looks." So, speaking of my wife, she does not play Dungeons & Dragons. She has no interest in Dungeons & Dragons, no interest in Critical Role. So she's watching this show kind of just with me, and she kind of watched season 1, really liked it. But so she really liked Osisa. But one of my favorite things to come out of this show so far is Earthbreaker Groon, which in the show also handled it very differently than in the stream. In the stream, the whole party went to see him. It was more of a thing for which I'm assuming they're going to go back and visit him again for round 2 of him versus Grog. But the whole aesthetic of Earthbreaker Groon, the way he looks, the way he talks, the way he acts, the way he fights, to be a monk of the Stormlord, it looks awesome. It was a very fun scene, and he just beat the absolute fuck out of Grog. Great all around, 10 out of 10. I enjoyed it. Then moving on, we got one of the most memorable things from all of Critical Role, which is Victor the Black Powder Merchant. This is the very end of episode 2. And I was actually wrong. I was telling my wife there was 2 moments where they seen Victor. There's actually 3 I found out last night. I remembered the third one last night, where they go and see Victor the Black Powder Merchant. It's to the point to where I think it was the second time they did it, where the audience knew that they were going back to Vasselheim. So in the Twitch chat, you just see the audience, "Oh, go see Victor, go see Victor, go see Victor." And I just went to after that part, Taliesin literally looks at the camera, gives him a toast, and says, "You're welcome, Internet." Liam stands up, gives him a round of applause. At the end of the third time, the whole cast gives Matt another round of applause for how he roleplays Victor. It is hilarious. The only problem I have with Victor this time, because it's one of the things that when you watch, Campaign 1 of Critical Role, and you're coming into the show, there's a handful of things that you're curious to how they're going to do, Victor is one of those. Obviously, it's good. Matt's playing Victor, fantastic. He kind of has to. Um, but I feel like it was rushed. That's my only bad thing, because I feel like it was very rushed with Victor, because he was putting in jokes from like their second and third visit that didn't really make a whole lot of sense in the first visit. The first example of this obviously is the learning from his mistakes, because when they first meet Victor, he's just a black powder merchant, just crazed man who sells Percy's black powder for his guns. The second time they go and see Victor, they're talking, and Victor has lost 2 fingers. Matt just holds up one hand and says the 2 fingers are gone. In the show, you just immediately get, for some reason, as Percy and Victor are talking, you just out of nowhere, Victor just goes, "Oh, learn from my mistakes," which is the famous line that Matt used. But it just seemed out of place because there was no previous whatever. And then the coffee joke, it was just, a lot of things didn't seem, I don't want to say it didn't seem planned out. It just seemed, I guess rushed is just the best way to say it. It just seemed very rushed. Still good. Still enjoyed it. Still great to see Victor animated. Hilarious still. Feel like it could have been done a little better, but again, thinking that's time, I think that might be the only time we see Victor. Hopefully not, but it might be. Then moving on, they get the information from OC about the vestiges of divergence, which are these very powerful godly magic items that that were used forever ago, and just ancient, powerful magic items that they. So she basically told them, "Hey, go find these. They'll help you kill the dragons." The first one they're given is the Deathwalker's Ward, which is the armor that the former champion of the Raven Queen, which was hundreds of years before that, wore. So they go to this place to try to find that. Cash and Zara actually follow them because they feel slighted that Osisa didn't tell them about this. Yada yada yada. But it's funny that you get to see something that wasn't a part of the. I want to say it was more of when it happened. It was the cast laughing, not the characters laughing. So they kind of kept that and just made the characters laugh at it, which is hilarious. Which is that and Matt has had this problem in Critical Role a lot, where whenever he names something, the cast immediately starts laughing and makes fun of it some way, and it's something that's always happened to him. But the former champion of the Raven Queen's name was Pervon Soul. Soul, I'm not sure but how it's exactly pronounced, but Pervon Soul, I believe it's how they say it. And when Matt said that in the live stream, the cast could not control themselves, just laughing hysterically. And what's funny is I think they took a little, like, one of Sam and Liam's jokes that they said and made Scanlan and Vax say them, which was like, oh, his first name is Pervon. Scanlan's like, oh, last name must be Pedo Bear. And then Liam said, "Oh, you got to get your perv on." Vax said that in the show, which is hilarious. Funny little shout out to them. Letting the live stream bleed through, I thought was really cool. Then this is when we get Grog finally putting on the Belt of Dwarven Kind, which in the stream does a variety of things. It lets him speak Dwarvish. Gives him resistance to poison damage, gives him a chance to grow a beard, which Goliath can't grow hair, supposedly. I believe that's something in their lore, that they don't really have hair. They're usually just bald. So Grog having a beard is hilarious. So you finally get the beard here, which is really cool. But all through this episode, the one thing that I think they do, this third episode is one of their best episodes that I think they've done. And the reason is the storytelling that they've done through this episode to lead up to the end of this episode, between the storytelling of Vax and Vex and their lives and how they come from their family. Also, something I noticed last night when I was watching with my wife, their father is, I mean, we know it from the live stream, is just a horrible piece of shit. And like, he literally called two of his own kids, which, again, that Vax and Vex are half elves. Their father is full elf. He's one of those stuck up elven nobility, high on elven blood kind of people. but for some reason had relations with a human woman and had twins because of it. And he called them diluted, which is I realized it later and I go, that is a hell of an insult to just throw at somebody, especially your kids. Be like, oh yeah, you're just you and your diluted brother, and it's like, hey bro, calm down, okay? Let's not do that, okay? Um, but from the storytelling of their relationships with their dad, how Vex always just wanted approval from her dad, which I'm assuming is going to come up later. There's a thing that happens way later in the stream. That's a very good moment that I'm assuming will be happening in the show as well at some point. The next time I'm assuming we see their dad will be that moment. But just the whole story breakdown of Vax trying to take care of his sister, and then no, I don't need your help, and leaves. And eventually they come back to the end where he's like, yeah, you don't need me, I need you. Where Vax is saying he needs Vex more than she needs him. Which is obviously leading up to the end of the episode, which was I actually watched a clip of the live stream moment of that recently of Percy. And what's crazy is if you watch the stream, Vex is literally in the middle of rolling a check to see if it's trapped. And as she's rolling it and waiting to give Matt her number, Percy just goes, I carefully remove the armor, which immediately sets off a trap, dealing a ton of damage to the people around, which straight up necrotic energy kills Vex immediately. Vex is nowhere to be. Vex can't see this happen. He's in a hole trying to find some loot. Just told everybody to not touch anything, and here we are. Percy touched things, and which is another storyline that they develop as they go through their relationship that they have to work through, I guess is the way to say it. But it's a very, to watch it animated, which it was a very sad moment in the first campaign. Obviously watching the stream live, very, very sad moment. Watching it animated was another level. And the transitions they did back and forth between Vex's kids and into Vax literally holding his sister's dead body and crying. It was a very emotional and very, very cool way to show that scene. And obviously leading into how the next few episodes that should release this Thursday night. Very excited for those. But one other little thing that I had wrote down, and I think I've covered everything that I had wrote down. Grog using his sword Craven Edge, fantastic. I love how they're doing it. It looks fantastic. Obviously, the evil sentient sword known as Craven Edge. I think that's a D&D item, but I'm not sure. I'm hoping we get some of the funny moments with Craven Edge as well, not just Grog using him like a maniac. But trying to see if there's anything else I missed. I think that's it. Overall, and I'm gonna get out of it. I'm gonna stop this video. Overall, very good show. I'm enjoying this. Don't know if I'm enjoying. I think I am enjoying this season a little bit more. Chroma Conclave arc from the live stream is the biggest arc I want to say that they've done. I don't really remember 100%. It's a large arc that they did, which is why they have 2 seasons for it. But it's my favorite arc that they've done through the Briarwoods into the Chroma Conclave into the Vecna arc. For campaign 1 all the way through campaign 2 of Critical Role, even up to what they're doing in campaign 3 right now. The Chroma Conclave arc is my favorite arc that they've done. So, I'm a kid in a candy store when it comes to this arc and this season of the show. So, I'm enjoying it a whole lot. Let me know if you guys watch this video. Let me know what you think about this show. Comment on the video below. I'll try to respond to the comments. I'll keep an eye on them. Comment on our social medias. All that stuff's in the description below. Trying to think if we have any announcements that we need to do. I don't think so. I'm gonna try to do these. I think I might just do these where I just record these on Sundays, which is the episodes drop on Thursday Friday-ish. I record on Sunday, just post it. But I don't know if AJ and Dustin, I think Dustin had some internet issues today that prevented them from recording. But they might be able to record tomorrow and still keep the Tuesday, Thursday for the Pokemon videos. I don't know if AJ has any Midnight Suns. I think he said he was almost done with that. He might have a couple more videos of that to post. And then later this week is Royal Rumble for our wrestling side of our show. So we're going to be doing some picks and some things like that for Royal Rumble. So I think that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this a lot. Just me rambling in a microphone for 35 minutes and about something that I really like. I don't think that's it. So you guys have a good one. We'll see you guys next week. I'm out of here.